and learn the alter table statement. An alter table statement, as the name suggests, alters the structure of a table, right? Which is different from changing the data in the table. So till now you have been working with the data. You knew how to create it. And after the creation, you knew how to select records, you knew how to update them, and you knew how to delete them. So we've done the CRUD. We've done creation, reading, update, and delete. We've done one major part. But before we go on to more than one tables in the next part of the semester, we'll do this last thing, which is basically altering the structure of the table. So what does alter structure means? Alter structure means you want to maybe add a new column, maybe change a column in terms of you give it a size of varchar 20, you want to make it varchar 40. You want to change the name of a column. You want to delete a column. That's what you do. So you're not talking about records now here. You're talking about columns here. And why don't we just write a new script and do it? Because in the real world, it is not easy just to say, okay, everything stops. We'll change the script. Everything starts, right? So writing small alter table statements, which can be run quickly, is much easier. So your aim is to learn them, which you could say, why do I even want to learn them? I'll write a new script, but that's not what the aim is, right? In the real world, that's not how it works. You may be giving a single command line statement to just add a new column and maybe give it a default of 0 or whatever. Having said that, I still repeat that when tables are created or when you create a database and tables therein, please follow good design principles. That's important. It doesn't mean, oh, I have a way of changing things, I won't care about it in the beginning. When you start correctly. If circumstances change and things have to be changed, then you use the alter table statement. Okay, but to begin right is the most important thing. So what should I call my database? What tables should I create? What should be the columns in the table? What is the best fit for these columns? Everything has to be decided before you start creating everything. It's a big world. It's not a classroom with 30 students. Okay, so you have to think big data. You don't have to think small. So that's where it will come handy. Okay, so create a database and a table therein to store information about projects. So this is a very, very badly written script, but that's okay. To work with the alter table statement, use it to change the name of the table and add, modify, delete field description. So you can add new columns, you can modify them, and modify, there is a change and there is a modify. There are two verbs you can do, and I'll tell you the difference. And you can delete. And we are talking about field descriptions. Okay, so let's start. It's a very bad table, so don't worry about it. We'll set the environment as always. Whatever you want to set, anything you want to change, for me, this is enough. So that's what I'll keep. I'll always keep it. I'm not looking for line by line commenting for you. I call it a section. I say drop existing database, if any, creating and using the database. Right? Creating a new one or create a new one, whatever would be better. Again, I'm again bewailing you that dropping database is not common in the industry. It can happen, but it's not common like we do it every week. So that's a simple one. You recognize these statements, nothing to explain here. I still keep my drop table if exists projects, just because I want you to know that this statement does exist. And it is a handy one. It's not handy for us because we drop the whole database, but it's a handy one in the real world where you don't need a table, you just drop it. Sometimes you create a temporary table by joining two tables or by extracting some records and fields from here and there, and you create it, you've used it, you want to drop it, you drop it. So it's a handy statement. It's not a beware statement. So I just keep it so that you know, oh, it does exist. Okay. Okay, now the name of my table, of course, is not following my usual conventions because I want to change it. Okay, so we'll learn how to rename a table. So the table is called projects. I'm using a reserved word number, which I don't want to, like a number is a reserved word is blue. SQL says, okay, go ahead. But again, I'm off with it. I've said it's an int. I've said it's not null and default 0. I have two names which are really odd. I know what they are. They are description of project and contractor on job. But of course, if you read it at one go, you may not even make sense. So the table is a mess. and that's okay. We want to improve it. Display the table structure because I want you to see what the table structure is. Create table command. So I'm telling you the create command. You can always say, what will I do with this command? Copy paste. When you create tables and you want to save some time, you copy paste. Though this is a lot horrible table, but anyway. And then into projects, I've inserted some values. So I have a 1, 2, 3, 4 outside house painting, kitchen remodel, wood floor installation, roofing, and the name of the contractor is Murphy, Walls, Keller, and Jackson. Just a normal table. Then again, I've put some description of project and contractor job here. And by default, what will happen is 0 will go in its ID. So let's try to run this script till where I have it. And that's what was expected, right? Default was 0. Now a few things. Let's critique this table. So now you can critique me with your heart's content, okay? This is the structure of the table. All of you must be able to read it. Extra means something like auto increment would be an extra field, right? Key, there is no key in my table. I told you the first rule is you should have a primary key. Can something act as a primary key from my table? Use it. If you cannot find of a field that can act, and usually in situations, even in situations where there is no primary key, what do programmers do? They just add auto increment primary key. But here we have a number of a project, but I'll show you both things. And then that's show tables. Those are the only tables in my database. And then that's the create table command. So if you kind of take it, if you kind of right, so this is the create table command. I would like to bring a few things to your notice, though we don't do it, but I would notice how all the names have been put in tick marks. These are ticks, these are not quotes. These are the ticks that occur with your tilde sign on your keyboard. Now, why do some programmers do this, or why does even SQL do this? So that if you're using reserved word, it's kind of ignored. That's why it's ignoring reserved words. Right, that's what it does. Every name, whether it be the name of a table, whether it be name of a field, it just puts it in ticks. And that's how you, so can you do it? Sure, if you like to. I find it too irritating, so I don't do it. It has added a engine, my ISAM, which we haven't done ever because we haven't yet learned how to change engines. And for your information, the default engine is my ISAM, at least on VAMP's latest version. I don't know about XAMPP or MAMP. I don't know. So I don't add it. When I want to change it, I can change it. And also it says that the default character set is Latin 1. It says it is the default, so I again don't. But this tells you that if you want to change your character set, you can to different values. So they're using Latin 1, whatever, it's fine for us. We're okay with it. And so we don't do it. Another thing that you will notice, and it has confused only a couple of students, is this int with an 11 in it. This does not mean that it is an integer of size 11 digits. That's not what it means. This 11 is just for displaying purposes. I don't know what it does with it. So maybe when the table is displayed, it gives it a size of 11. That's what it does. It has nothing to do with storage. I'm pointing this out because I think in calories, in your assignments that you've been doing, which I made a tiny int, it was a maximum of size 3. So a student wrote int and he put 3 in brackets, thinking that I'm asking for an integer with only 3 digits. But that's not what it is. This number is absolutely misleading. It has nothing to do with storage. If you don't believe me, read about it, right? So go tiny int when you want tiny int. So this is one thing that you may have seen. Only one student did it, so I'm bringing it to everybody's notice. This doesn't mean that the maximum size is 11 digits. I don't know why they do it. I really don't know. Now, we don't say default null anywhere. We don't write the default null because if we don't write anything, it is a default of null. So again, this is extra put by the SQL engine on its own when it creates it. If you like it, do it. I don't stop you from doing it. I do the not null for sure, but I never say default null because it is again a default. But if I need to change the default, then I definitely put a default. So these statements, we don't put it. We haven't. If you notice, I don't even have them in my code. I don't have these tick marks or this engine or this character set in my code. But when you tell it to show the command to you, when you say, show me the create table command, which I did here, show me the create table command. That's what it will do. So, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to start typing it this way, it's entirely up to you. It's no big deal, right? And why do people usually do it? Then they can copy and paste, and if they're making a few changes, they can do it. So it's common. It's not a big deal. In the industry, it's common to copy, paste, create table commands just because it takes time. Okay, now a few things. Critique the table, please. Definitely, conventions are not being followed. Right now, conventions are not rules, so you can say, I don't care, but I care, right? We want to follow conventions. That's one thing. Two, more important, very important. There is no primary key in my table. And I said the minimum requirement of a table that it should have a primary key. Can any of these fields that you see here, you think can act as a primary key? Number? Number, because every project will have a unique number. No two projects will have the same number, right? So we will make number as a primary key. If we didn't have any field, then I'll tell you what to do. You can add an auto increment primary key. Okay, so that's one. Two, I mean, I'll do a few things that are necessarily not required, but we can change the sizes of varchar 50 and varchar 10. One description of project 50, I would try to go maybe more, just to show you that it can be done. And contractor on job, maybe I'll go more, just to show you it can be done. I would like to add new fields, maybe the phone number of the contractor, because there is no contact address, something like that. Oh, I do have a default null here. I didn't know that. Anyway, and I would like to again change the names of my fields to follow conventions. Okay, so let's see. So lousy table, let's improve it. Okay, so one by one, how do we do it? So what I've done here is I have kind of given you comments, and then we will write the code for it. Okay, so it says rename the table to table projects, deleting any previous one by that name. What do I mean by that? Maybe a table called table projects already exists in the database. So I'm saying delete it and then rename my table. Again, the same thing. Or are you deleting it? Maybe that's an important table. Why are you deleting it? But I'm just showing you that because I'm renaming it, I don't want a table by the same name. Otherwise, it won't let me do it. Otherwise, it won't let me do it. So how do you do? Let's do it. We know the drop commands and everything. So now the drop command comes handy. So you're saying drop table if it exists. And what's the new name you're giving it? This one. Now, again, you know what? You won't have the right of dropping tables all the time. I told you permissions are not given to everybody. But anyway, so I've dropped the table. If it exists is important. If it doesn't exist, I'll get an error. So this will give me a warning if it doesn't exist, and will drop it if it exists. Kind of scary. You're dropping a table without even knowing what it is. Whatever. Now let's rename it. Now, how do I rename my table? The statement is alter table. Simple. English like. Which table are you altering? Whatever it was called. Projects with a K. Right? That's what I'm altering. That's the table I'm altering. What do you want to rename it to? Can't remember if it's 2 also. Yeah, okay. Rename 2. What is the new name? Table projects. Now you have to remember something. This point onwards, line 52 onwards, there is no table called projects with a K. The table is now called table projects, right? So I'll kind of stop here and give it a semicolon. Though in one alter table statements, you can do whatever you like. Like, and you can have multiple statements. So there is one alter table, but you can do multiple jobs in it. I'm stopping right here just for the simple reason because I've given it a new name. And now I want to show you that the old table doesn't exist. How will I do it? I'll pick this up from here. I'll put it here. And I'll run the code. And I must get an error, which says there is no table called projects. Notice the error, please. Table db projects dot projects doesn't exist. Try to learn how to read errors because that's one of your jobs too as a programmer. You'll say, but it exists. No, you've altered it. So altered means you've changed the name. That's why I said it changes the structure of the table, including the name. So now if I wanted to do this, what would I use? and I'll be, oops, and I'll be okay. I'll be using now, from this point onwards, this table is called table projects. Keep in mind. Okay, so you know that. We've already checked it. Okay, one job done. I'm doing it one by one, but again, as I said, we can do it more than once. Okay, now question number 2. It says change the name of the number field. So I want to change the name of the number and make it the primary key. So I want to change its name and I want to make it the primary key. So how do you do it? Again, same statement, alter table. The name of the new table now. We don't have any table called projects with the K. Now we want to change the name of the number field. So as soon as it is changed, right, and make it the primary key. So we go change, right? I'll tell you the difference between change and modify in a minute, but right now let me do it. The word column is not necessary as far as I can remember. Try to not write it in one and see if it gives you a syntax error, but I think you can only say change, or I forget now. But anyway, change column is good enough English. Change column. Which column do you want to change? I want to change number. What is the new name? Using the name but changing other attributes like its size or whatever, then use modify. Okay, so that's one part of it. Now that's not the end. Once you change the name and you have said I'm changing the column, you have to repeat all the other things you want to do. So remember, what was it? It had a default value of 0. It was not null and it was an int, right? So if you don't want to change anything else, you wanted to change its type, sure, go ahead and change it. But I don't want to change its type. So I'll go int. I leave it at an int. Okay. If you want to make any more changes, you want to make it unsigned, sure, you can make it unsigned. I haven't said anything, but any changes you want. But the main thing is you want to make it a primary key. So add word primary key. It had a default of 0. Now that doesn't make sense because there is a project which is 0. But sometimes you take up a project, you say, okay, for now, I mean, it's not finalized whether I'll take it up or not. So maybe if you want to keep that definition, you can go default 0. I haven't said anything, so I'm kind of keeping it. You have to remember, I'm not writing not null now because primary key will take care of it. But if a field has some default values, some not null options or whatever, please see that you repeat them. You can't say, oh, I'm only changing the name, the rest definition remains the same. No, you have to kind of give the whole definition. Okay, so that's how you will change the column to. So I've changed the number, I've changed the name. I did not change the type. I didn't want to. If you wanted to, I could have said instead of int, I could have said character. And that was fine. You just give the new type. You don't give the old type and the new type. You just give the type. And I made it the primary key. And I said default was 0. And that will do it. How do I know that will do it? I'm going to, where is that statement? Doesn't help a lot, but anyway, doesn't help at all. So I've already, okay, so let's put a describe here. Right? So I've renamed it. I mean, it is renamed for your information because we already ran that script. So now when I again try to say alter table projects, it will give me an error. So I won't run that script because projects is gone. But I'll run this for you. When I duplicate entry. Oh, okay. Okay, now the problem. Think about it for a minute. It's a primary key and I had 2 records which had 0 in it. Right? It was a primary, and now what? You will say, oh, do I change my data? Like, that's too much work. Are you expecting me to go and change data and do it? No, I'm not. So what can I do? What can I do to make it the primary key but not change the data and let the system do it for me? What can I add as its attribute? Auto increment. Make it an auto increment key. right? Because I don't want to go and like those are only 5 records, but think about, I don't know, like it was created, I don't know whether it has duplicates. I had a default value of 0 also. God knows how many defaults I have. So a safe way would be to do what? Add that auto increment. Make sense? So I didn't realize it when I did it. And as soon as I ran it, I had this error. And then I remembered, oh, I had added 2 inserts and both their default values were 0. And nobody says you have to keep default 0 unless you really need it. But to me, it is not making a difference. So, oh, you know what? Then I add more, but in that case, it will give me an error saying, oh, 0 is already there. So I can't add it more than once anyway. The default is kind of useless for me. You can't add it more than once. Once you, on a one record, if you have default 0 and you don't add it, you can't leave it again. You know what I mean? So it's kind of becoming useless. So we'll remove it. It's useless. Let's try it again now. Hopefully we won't get an error. And you know what? Let's also do this. Because how will you know? Okay, so let's run this. I still have an error. Select table projects. Oh God, what am I doing? Select star from table projects. Can you imagine? I've forgotten my selects. This describe, I'm copying the describe. Okay. God save me. Okay. Again an error. Unknown column number. Okay, so maybe because I've ran it so many times and it altered it, and then the problem was in the select statement. The problem was in select statement, so definitely it kind of, okay. So I had altered the table, I changed the primary key, the problem was in the select statement. So when I ran it again, it said, oh, there is no number, which makes sense. Okay, so now let's look at the last 2. So that's the data. Do you notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, auto increment? And look at its description. Primary key was added. It is automatically not null. I didn't say not null. Primary keys are not null. And extra auto increment. There is no other way of working with this example at least, because I have 2 with zeros. You can keep default 0, but it's not very advantageous because you can only add 1 record with a default of 0 because it's a primary key. So you can keep it if you like, but I mean, it's not very useful in this case. Now comes another question, which is not necessarily here, but may arise, right? What if there was a field which was fine, its name was fine, everything was fine, but I just wanted to make it a primary key? Just for information, I'm only telling you so that you know for future. If a key already was there, right? So I'll put a comment here. If a field was good to be a PK without any changes. So I didn't have to do anything to it. I didn't want to change its name or its type, nothing. I didn't have to do anything. It was fine. Everything was okay. Then all I had to do was, then I can actually do this. I can say alter table. But here I cannot because there was and it is called add primary key, and you can name the field. For example, I mean here it's really bad, but anyway, like whatever the field name is. So suppose it was already present. I'll just say field name here because I can't think of anything. I don't want a syntax error. So I'll say what? Just to give it. I want to show you it doesn't give a syntax error. Oh, it does give a syntax error. What is it saying? The number has already been altered. So something is wrong in my syntax. Something is wrong in my syntax. As far as I can remember, it says add primary key. Okay, I'm going to try something. I mean, I can make it work, but it doesn't like something. That's strange. That is strange. It's such a simple thing, add primary key. No, it's not there. 10 minutes. You know what? I'll take, when you take a break, I'll figure it out. I won't waste your time. But I don't know why it's not happening. Third option, suppose you wanted to add, I'll give you a break, don't worry. Suppose there was no field, you wanted to add a new field and make it a primary key. Like I didn't want to do number, I just wanted to add a new primary field. Then you would just add a column. So let me show you the third way, hopefully, which I won't get a problem with. So if you want, there was nothing. So if a field was good to be a primary key without any changes, I'm going to look during the break what the problem is. And here I'm going to say something else. So if a new field has to be added, now what option do you have? Kind of think about it. I want to add a new field and I want to make it the primary key. None of the previous records has any data about it. So the only option that I have is this. I can add a column, call it whatever you like. Like I can call it ID. Usually people call it ID, whatever. And then capital or small. Usually they go with capital letters. But anyway, I'll call it project ID. I'll stick to what I've been calling it. Right? And I'll make it an auto increment primary key. That's your third option. You couldn't find a field in the table that acts like a primary key. Oh, forgot my int. There. So if you cannot find any suitable field in the table to act as a primary key, or you just don't choose to, as I said, some programmers don't choose to, then that's the only option you have. You can't say, oh, it can be auto increment. Why? Because there are already records in the table. You can't add a field that is empty. So when you add a field and you want to make it a primary key, then that's your only option. You say add column, give it a name. Type can be any type of integer. You can make it unsigned. We've already talked about that. So adding unsigned won't matter at all. You can make it instead of an int, if you want to go small int, you can do that. Maybe the person, like I'm just telling you, you can any version of int. We've already talked about it. Any version of int or unsigned will do. But this is the only way if a new field is to be added as a primary key. There is no other way. It has to be an auto increment. And we've already learned that auto increment keys have to be integers. Different forms of integers will do, unsigned or signed will do. Right? So we don't want to do this, so I'll comment this out. But syntactically, it is right. The other one, syntactically, I'm getting a problem. So I don't know what the problem is, but I will figure it out. Okay. Now let's look at one more, and then I'll give you a break. Okay. Change the column allows to change the name and the type. Remember to give complete definition. Okay. So this is just for your information so that you don't forget. Many students tend to forget. They forget the not null. It was not null and they forget the not null. So it's gone. If you don't add it, it's gone. Keep that in mind. Change the names and type for the other two fields. Okay. So what's the other two fields? I'm going to copy them because they were very strange names. Description of project and contractor on job. I'll put it here so that I can see them. Okay, let's do it. It says change the name and the type of the other two fields, both. So name has also to be done. Okay, so the syntax is change column. Which column do you want to change? Description of project. What do you want to call it? For me, I could go whatever, but it's okay. This is fine for me. I'm going description of projects. I want to change its type from 50 to maybe 200. If you want to keep it default null, I mean, that's really unnecessary. But if it had a not null, please remember to go not null. If it had anything, repeat everything that is there and doesn't need to be changed. You have to, otherwise it is gone. So if it was a not null here, which is kind of odd, I've given a default null here. Let's do it for you so that you don't forget. Let me do not null here. I'm just doing it. Okay, I'm doing not null. It should not be null. And I'll I'll just do it for the heck of it. Then please remember that you have to say not null here again. Doesn't matter, you're not changing it. You have to do it again. What did I change? I changed from whatever to whatever. So alter my table. It was called table projects. And you know what? I'll do this here. More than one statement. So I'll show you. You can do whatever you like in one alter table statement. Change column. Contractor on job is going from contractor on job to contractor on job with underscores. Varchar 10 is a little less for you. He's the contractor on job. Let's give him 40. And again, default null is really not necessary because that is also the default value. I mean, so that's not very important. And now put a semicolon. Don't put a semicolon after your first statement because you're writing one alter and you're doing do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. So separate them by comma. But you could do this. You don't have to have one statement per alter table. I could have started, I could have even done this together. The change column when you did, I could have done this together in the same alter table. So at least I've done two so that you know, right? So I changed the type. I mean, you can change the type altogether unless you create some havoc in your tables, right? You were doing, before this, maybe you were doing math with some numeric fields and now you change them to character. Don't do that. Be careful about those things. I'm not talking doing silly things. I'm talking about doing logical things. So I changed the size, which is okay, no big deal. So the previous ones will be, will be fine. The new ones that you add, you can go till 200. Okay, that's all it means. Okay, so that's how I change it. So I change the name, I change the type, and I keep the old definition, if any. I keep the not null. If you don't do it, it won't work. How will you say? Do the describe again and you will know. Description will tell you. Oh, things have changed or things have not changed. So let's take this description again. Let's do the select again. Uh-oh. And let's save it and let's run it. Let's find out my errors again. Okay, so one before this. See, varchar 200, varchar 40, not null, null yes, whatever, auto increment or whatever. So let me try to forget this one now. For the heck of it, I forget it. Hopefully I'm right, unless the newest version has changed in this last 6 months. Okay, so I forgot my not null in description of project. I just forgot it. I'm going to run the script again. It's just easy to run the script because it's smaller. And then, of course, the renaming and all that causes problem. Not smaller because the renaming causes problems. See, it's become null. So you can't, I didn't tell you, I just said change the name. That's all I said, and its size. I didn't say change its null property from null to not null. It's become null now. So you have to retain the previous properties. Anything that you don't want to change, please repeat. Otherwise, that's also gone. This becomes your new definition. That's what you're saying, change my column. So it changed it. So the name has changed, the type has changed. Because I forgot to do not null, it became null. And therefore I'm saying, please see that you remember to change it. Okay, let's take a break. Okay, and then we'll do forward. We'll talk about modify and so on and so forth. And let me find out why my IAD primary key is not working. Yes.
What does desk mean?
What does describe?
Describe.
Describe, yeah. That's a short form of describe. Oh. Oh no, something is wrong. Okay, let me find out.
It's just out of like just like that. Boga University.
या तू क्या बोलती या तू क्या बोलती
क्या मतलब बता
तू बोला ना
मतलब बता
तू बोला
वो बता मतलब
या तू बोला
जिंदगी कितनी
Oh yeah.
Well, at least someone.
don't tell someone about your good side to make them stay. Tell them about your worst side and then see who stays.
How do you get rid
It's like ये देख ये 4 नंबर है सारे एक साथ एक रोशनी चाहिए गुजराती में
तो तुम उसको क्या बोलती हो बता
कैसे बताऊं कुछ कभी मैं बोलना
कोई ऐसा भी बोलती है
What is this? Not a sorcery, bro. That's your recap? That's the recap.
मतलब बताओ
बताओगे
Off the program.
मुझे पता है bana da açılacak yani o ders.
It's like कैसे बताओ तुम
Kreşine çağırıyorlar ya. Sorry. Yeah, I lost. All time. It's the Turkish power. Turkish power. Go to I feel bad. No. Kanka, o kadar kolay ki. Bro, it was so easy. Sorry. So easy. Wow. Listen, I was saying after. Next time we'll go.
No, I'm gonna be here.
Yarım. Yarım. Potato, potato, bro. No. Yarım. Yarım. Senin cumartesiye tamam ediyor. Perşembe çalışıyorum. Bunun parası ne? Oğlum bütün saat çalışıyorum. 5 gün çalışsam 15 saat. Yani gerek kesinlikle bu kadar. Ama nereye konuşuyorsun? Hala perşembe için akşam bir gün var. Şu an çalıştım. Perşembe kesin. Perşembe
Just out of curiosity, occasionally if I do miss this class, is it possible for me to come in tomorrow class?
Sure.
Yeah.
No big deal.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna try not to miss anything.
Yeah. No, it's okay because we are going on the same space. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Unless I don't know which. No, I don't think Wednesday is ever a holiday. We'll be on the same
No,
place.
it's
anyway.
usually, I've checked this,
scheduling
nowadays,
is nothing.
usually on Mondays.
Yeah, Mondays I know, and Mondays is my off, so I didn't
I'm
even
off
bother.
too.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. No big deal. No problem. Ready? Okay. Okay, here is the syntax error I was getting. The field name has to be put in round brackets. I thought it was easy as saying add primary key this field, but the field has to be put in round brackets. So that was the syntax error. So I've just said field name here because it doesn't hold for me, but that's the syntax. So if a table already has a field and the field is good enough and you want to make it the primary key, then you don't use change column or anything. You just say add primary key and name that field. Sometimes it may happen, right? So somebody forgot, whoever didn't even use that. So I'll comment this out, but there was a syntax error because I was not putting it in round brackets. So I knew it was easy. It just didn't, I couldn't figure it out. I had to look it up. So I'll put this in comments because it's not working. It's not for us at all. So add primary key is available. Add unique is also available for your information as a hint and so on. So for us, I wanted to change number to project ID, which I did. I made it an int. And as I said, you can add properties if you like nobody stops you. You can try it. So I've been saying it. I've never tried it, but here it is, no big deal. Or if you also want to change its position, remember I said it is already in the first position, but if you want to keep it at the first position, go first, last, both work in MySQL. and one of the after works after a field, but before doesn't work. So something in MySQL. So you have the option, you have first, last, first, second, third, fourth, all these. But in MySQL, the option is you can say first, you can say last, and you can say after a field name. So put this after a field name, nothing else works. Other RDs also have the option of second, third, or before also. So in MySQL, first works, last works, and after works. So you could have said primary key and you could have said after field 2, for example, whatever the field name. Okay, so just for your information. So here is the one for students who are just coming in. So this is the, I was missing the round brackets in syntax, so it's here now. I'll put this on Blackboard when we are done. If you don't have a primary key and you want to create a new field altogether, definitely it has to be an auto increment. And if you want to change a column which may act as a primary key, keep in mind you must make it auto increment. Otherwise, it may just not work properly, as it was not doing in our case. Two of our values were 0. Okay, let's move forward. So this was a syntax error. It was giving me a syntax error. Now it's okay, I've just commented it out, but it's okay, take my word for it. I checked it before I commented it. Okay, where were we? Okay, so we've done this. Here, let's come to modify now. It says change the field size or type of description. Oh, okay, to one of description. I've already given it. Okay, I made it 200 here. Let's make it 100. Now it says change only the type, nothing else. So just to show you, it would be so silly that you do this first, then you again do it, you do everything together, but this is just to show you modify. So how do you modify something? It remains the same. The difference is in modify, of course, you use the word modify. That's one. And you don't give an old name. You just give, you can't change a name using modify. You can change the type, but you can't change the name. So I had done 200 here when we left, but I just did 100 and then made it 120 here. So change the field size or type of description. So if you don't understand what description is, of the project description. So I'm using modify column is used to change the type. Old properties need to be rewritten. Don't forget that. They still need to be rewritten. So what's the difference between modify and change? If you don't want to change the name, use modify. If you want to change the name, use change. In modify, if you want to, again, like you could still say change, but then you'll have to double this up. Description of project, blank description of project. Kind of looks silly, but when modify is available, why do it? Okay, but you can do it. You can say change column description of project, and then varchar. But as I said, just so that you know that it exists. So that's modify. So for students who just came in, this alter has been altered. I'll put it on Blackboard. If you only want to alter and add a primary key that was already present, it just needed round brackets. And we've just kind of made this change. It was 200 when I left. I made it 100 and then again changed it to 120 and showed the modify column. It says drop the column contractor name. Oops, the contractor name has to be dropped altogether. So contractor on job has to be dropped. Like I'm only doing silly things, okay? But that's okay. So what would you do? You would just do this. Dropping is dropping, so you don't even have to. Oops, forgot my semicolon here. It's not a comma. And in drop, which makes sense, you don't want to give anything else. It's just a drop command. It doesn't need the description of it. You're just dropping a column. Okay, so that's drop column. So you've seen change column, modify column, drop column. We've also done an add, just to show you when I was showing how you add the primary key, but we'll do add now. It says add new columns, start date, contractor phone, and estimated cost. You need to add 3 new fields. Okay, so as it suggests, it should not be so difficult. Let's try it. I'll use one alter table statement to do all 3. And again, you can do it as long as the renaming is not causing problems. It's fine if you are not using the name again. Okay, so we want to add a start date. Good enough name? What should be the type of start date? Date, right? Again, if you would like to have not null with it, it's just like describing a new field. You forgot to do it when you created the table, you are just doing it. Or if you want to not say not null, then by default, remember, it goes 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, all zeros is the date. So nothing was given, so I'm just making it up. Okay, but the minimum that is required is start date and date. That's the minimum that you require. The not null is just me. You can add another column. So in one alter statement, do whatever. It says contractor phone number. So the name is gone for whatever reason, but his number is here. Now with a phone field, phones are numbers. We know that, right? We know that phones are numbers, but we don't make them ints. We make them characters or varchars. If you're not sure, like some people put round brackets, some put dashes, but with phone numbers like student IDs, we know they are numbers, but they'll never do math with it. We'll more work with the phone number, maybe extracting the first 3 digits for the area code. That would be more common, right? So I'm going to make it a varchar. And actually, you can also do more with it. You can actually give it a, you can make it, but that's more on the front end, that when you take the phone number at the front end, you kind of say, okay, here is, you kind of don't allow user to enter anything but digits and only 10 digits and so on. We're assuming, we are not doing data entry validation. We are assuming it's coming to us. So now we have 10. Our phone number is size 10, but if you start putting brackets or dashes, it could be a little more. So I could go 15 with it. But of course, I'm just making educated guesses. But when you in real life are going to write applications, you definitely know how the phone number will be saved. You don't want mix and matches. You don't want some phone numbers to be saved with dashes, some without dashes, some area codes in round brackets. You won't do that. Don't do that. If the data is untidy, then extraction is always difficult because you don't know the format of the data. So your format must always remain like you should decide upon the format. So if you want, I don't know what I expected of, maybe if you want, you can make it character also if you like, but it entirely depends on you. I didn't bother a lot. Or don't want 15, work with 10, that's up to you. Again, not null or null is entirely up to you. Nothing was mentioned, so it was, of course, if it was an exam, you would lose your, you'll panic saying, oh, what does she want? But of course, I'm just showing you because we are working in class. I'm just showing you how it has to be done. And the third one is the estimated cost. But I haven't given you the type or anything. So you are making your best educated, best fit guesses again. So again, you should know what I should do with cost. So cost is money. Money means decimal, 2 places after decimal. Now comes how big should it be? Now we don't know. Again, your client will tell you that I usually, my work usually it's around, I work till 100 grand. He'll give you some idea. And that's how you will kind of make the size, right? But here again, we are just kind of going add column. We are calling it estimated cost. We don't have to be told that it is a decimal. Now I do know that there is also a numeric data type in MySQL, and they are the same, decimal and numeric. I would stick to decimal because decimal is more commonly known in the world of everywhere, not only in databases, also in our programming world. So I'll stick to decimal, though there is nothing wrong in numeric, but I'm not very sure. I forget, to be very truthful, if there was numeric data type in Oracle. I can't remember. If there's not, I would just stick to decimal. Now here comes the size. So you can kind of go 7,2 if you like, which leaves you 5 places before decimal, which will make 100,000, right? Or you can go 8,2. But again, as I said, this is not as if we are making guesses. We definitely know what's going on. You can say, oh, it can be null, to kind of, because if I'm not yet sure, but usually people will ask for an estimated cost. Again, I leave it to you. You can kind of decide whether I need not null with it or whatever with it and do it. And you'll say, oh, right now I haven't given him a value. So you talk to a client, you'll say, I'll tell you afterwards. So you can say, oh, to mark those records, I'll put a default of 0 so that I know that I have to fill it up and tell my client. So things like that, anything, like whatever you've done in your table structure when you define your fields, you can do it here. You're adding columns, right? Now, just because we've done it, if you want to put, they're automatically added in sequence. So you'll have start date, you will have contractor phone, and you will have estimated cost. If for whatever reason you want to change their sequence means without kind of changing the sequence here, you say, oh, the contractor phone must come last. I think last is allowed in SQL. If not, we will know. No, last is also not allowed. Okay. So even last is not allowed. First is allowed. But this is, of course, allowed. You can say after. What was its name? I don't know. Contractor phone. After description of project, maybe. I thought last was allowed, but seems like even last is not allowed. So the two options for you are first or after a particular field name. If you don't do it, by default, it will go at the end. Right? I'll show you. We can describe the table projects and see it and then select all tables. Right? So I'll show you. So let's save that. So again, I have written 5 or 6 alter table statements, but that doesn't mean you have to do it that way. All you have to remember is there is no clash in the sense of, oh, you are changing a field and then, or maybe changing the name and then use an old name, something like that. If there is no logical clash, you can say alter table, whatever, rename, do this, do this, do this, do this, and then put a semicolon at the end, and they have to be separated by commas. Okay, so let me now show you what this after does. I thought last was available, but seems like when I write last, I get an squiggly, so which means it is not allowed. No, it's not allowed. Okay, so first and after is allowed. But other RDs do have it for your information. Before is also available. First, second, third, fourth, these numbers are also available, and last is also available. Let me run this for you. Oh, I have an error. Oh, I added a new column and I said not null. And I already have records. I make that mistake over and over again. I did it with my primary key also. Can do this because records are already present in the table. So you can give it a default. The default is 0, 0 anyway, so you don't have to worry. So I can do it here. I keep forgetting that I'm altering. I can do it here. What was contractor? Oh, this is a new field. Oops, it's a new field. I can do it here. I can give it not null. I can do it. So after is okay. And the default of 0 is also okay. Can do not null here. So you'll say, what do I want to, if I have to do it, what do I do? Then the only option is after this, you update your table and then you write alter table again to change it to not for future. But at this point of time, you already have records in the table. You're adding new columns and you're saying it cannot be null. Cannot happen. Okay, so there is a workaround. The workaround is do this, update your table, and then again, alter table and say not null, add not null, modify it. Okay, that can be done. Let's try it again. See, so small things, but they're important. Logically, they are correct. Okay, so we are more interested in seeing the, more than this, we are interested in this, right? Okay, so project ID is an int 10 unsigned. I made it unsigned. I changed it. It is a primary key, can be null. No, it is an auto increment field and it occurs at the first position. By default, number was also at first, so it doesn't make a lot of difference, but it occurs at the first position. Oh, I have an error. Unknown column description of project. What did I call it? Okay, I dropped it. So silly me. And so what else do we have? I can be dropping description of project, but I can be dropping anything actually. So instead of dropping, let's drop contractor on job. What do you say? I mean, none of them should be dropped. But how if I don't know the guy's name? Like, you know what I mean? But there. Okay. Sorry about that. It is an error. Of course, it's a valid error. I dropped it and I'm saying put it after the column. So how can that happen? Right? Okay, let's try it once more. Okay, now it works. Now look at things. Now, these are all null. New fields added will be null because there is no option, right? New fields have been added. Estimated cost, why is estimated cost 0? Because I gave it a default of 0. So that's your option. You can give a default value if you like, right? And that way, maybe I can say not null default. so that it has a value. I'll double check. And here is the description. Now, what I wanted to show you was this contractor's phone number came after description of project.
Not null is working for me.
What are you using?
Same as like
No, VAMP or XAMP or MAMP.
exactly.
So there is a setting which is different then. That means we can set it. So at least we know that not null is working for him, which means there is a setting which can be taken care of. That's what tells me the difference. See, that's how the servers are different.
Not null on date. On the adding new columns.
Adding new columns. And what are you using? VAMP? But we are all using VAMP. Can't happen that way.
Just because we are adding inserting columns before this adding columns.
What do you mean by saying inserting? No values are inserted, right?
No, I think the error we were getting it was because of we were dropped
Oh, you mean of that? Because of that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me try then. Where was it? So I did a not null here, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And I did a not null here also. Let's see what it does. If that allows it, then we don't have to do a lot. I was thinking that I'll say not null and I'll give it a default value and see maybe that will work. Yeah, maybe you're right. But where was I getting the error? I was getting it here after. I was getting it here. Maybe that was the problem. It was not the not null that was the problem. Okay, let's try it. Let's see what it does. I want to see what it does to the data. I'm still getting an error. Incorrect date value for column start date at row 1. I'm getting an error. Did you try a not null on date?
Yeah.
And I'm contractor on job. Why is mine not working then? Yeah, not null, every field is there. What about last one, the TV projects on this one?
It's
Yeah. Why am I having a problem, guys? I also have VAMP. I didn't change any default settings. Really strange, right? So it's working for everybody but me? I'm only 6 months old. I mean, I didn't change it right at the beginning of the semester. I think I changed it when I was on vacation. So that's January or February. I changed somewhere there. I changed my VAMP and they've changed it. Yeah, it's not allowing me to do it. I'm getting an error which says incorrect date value 0000 for this. Yeah, it works. I saw it, right? I was thinking if this didn't work was my idea. I was thinking if this didn't work, I would do something like this. I would say not null and I would use default of 0, like not null like this. Let's see if that works. But if it's working for you, then it's of course my old version. That's the only thing I can think of. So not null is not working for me. It's not. I'm getting a problem. Let's see if I can do not null default 0. That should work because I'm giving it a default of 0. But that is strange. Unless, again, as I said, versions change, even updates, they may have updated it. Yep. See, yeah. So not null with default is working, but not null alone is not working for me. Yeah, I saw the output for here. This is not working for me. Then all I can say is I definitely haven't updated it since January. Right? I taught it last in January and I haven't updated it. I just didn't think of. I thought, oh, what's the big deal? So that means I have to be careful because in the exam, okay, I'll update it. I will update it. What is the default? All 4 zeros, right? All 0, 0, 0s is the default. I mean, I can get a way around it, but why should I do extra work if Yep, I get a problem. So it's my version then. Definitely it's my version. If I do a default, it will start working. It will. So I have to be careful about that. Okay. So it's only me. So it's okay for you guys then, right? But that tells me they have changed something. Some setting has been changed, which I don't have. So either I can Google it and say what has to be set and put a set statement and it will start working, or something that has been done in WAMP itself. But I'm sure there is something that a setting has changed. So this one works because it has a default value. So if I start doing not null and give it a default, not null and give it a default, it will start to work. At least for me, it will start to work. If it's working for you, that's perfectly fine, and I'll keep that in mind. And I should be okay now. Okay, there we go. So you know all three forms of adding a primary key, right? I can add a primary key, a field that already exists. I can add a new primary key, but it can only be auto increment. I can change the name of a field and make it the primary key, but I have to be careful that I make it auto increment if the data is absent in those records. So the safe side is going auto increment unless you know that, oh, there may or may not be data. Who tells you? Nobody will tell you. Like I did a add primary key here, just so that you know, because you're going to do the assignment, just so that you know, like an add primary key, there is also a add unique. So you can make a field unique if you like. Remember, we've talked about it. You can make fields unique. You cannot have more than one primary keys, but I can make that combination of unique, not null to a field and still kind of say that, oh, only unique values can go for it. But something that you have to remember, which I made twice, I made that mistake today, was once for sure. This one was, different because of version. If a field already exists or it doesn't have values and you're saying it is not null and it has null values, it will come up with an error saying, oh, you can't do that because there are fields with that not null and you're now saying that it is with null and you are not saying not null. So be careful about this because uniqueness may also cause the same kind of problem. Okay. Any questions for me? Are we good? So this is alter. This is all that you know for alter. I've already done alter table auto increment with you. So I've covered alter in its eternity. So now your fourth assignment and the last one before the reading break. So next week exam and today is the last assignment. I'll open it up for you. And I'm hoping it won't take more than 50 minutes, but I'm hoping, who knows? Let's see. Just give me a minute because I don't want to give you any crap before I make a change. So element in class 4 SQL. What is MS doing? Okay, so that's for me. Okay. No, that's not it. Where can I find the alter one? Where is my alter one gone? I thought I made it. Oh, there it is in class 5. There. It's a document. That's what I'm thinking. So this is in class 4 for us, right? We haven't done, how many have we done? 3, right? Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, okay. Oh, I have to change its name. I'll change its whatever. Oops. I'll open it up for you and then we will discuss it because there are a few things. Oh, there are a few things I definitely want you to pay attention. Okay, that's fine. Unique word is mentioned there. Okay, so let me put this for, why did I call it in class 4? I don't know. Maybe I made it and then changed it. I can't remember. So this is your fourth last one before the reading week. And after the reading week, you will at least get 2 because they're bigger. Because only 2, 4 now and 2 afterwards. Easy, right? I'm going easy on you now. Okay, let me open it for you now. Okay, so under assignments, in class assignments. See, everything is ready for you. I just don't want to give it to you. Oh, now, oops. Okay, download it and I have to remove it, okay? Because the other section does it tomorrow. And you have to finish it today. Okay, so let me do this. Okay, let me be sure that I've done it correctly. And be honest, don't share it with the other guys. Okay, here it is. It's on Blackboard now. Thank you. You're going to get a 0. Everybody else gets full marks. Okay, so please download ICA 4 in class alter table structure docx from Blackboard. And then I'll remove it, okay? Because the other section sees it tomorrow. And you have 50 minutes to complete it. Yeah, you will be able to. It's easy. Go ahead. Start at least. Don't panic. Okay, don't panic. I'll let you do it till midnight if worse comes worse. Okay?
Mine is not downloading.
Ah.
No, like I'm being serious. It's not.
Now we have new ones, not downloading. Open it and then save it as. Okay, in 5 minutes I'm going to remove it, okay? So please see that you have it. Where did he go? Washroom? Okay, that's okay. We'll give him time.